This past year, at best, secondary school students only got 2 days a week in person. Learn how this middle school principal is reconditioning her students for a full week of learning. This week, I sat down with Jessica Cabeen, Ellis Middle School principal in Austin, Minnesota, where she made sure to let me know the city's nickname is Spam Town for being the producers of spam. Not email spam, but spam. They even have a museum. I'm excited to say that Austin, Minnesota may not just be the home of spam, it could be the home of a new modified block schedule format for a post-COVID school year. Ms. Cabeen is implementing a new schedule after her experience leading her school during the pandemic. She leads a team of 60 teachers who serve 800 students. She was able to keep a hybrid model schedule to her school throughout the year and offer distance learning for families who still wanted to stay remote.
I am Jessica Cabeen, and I am the proud principal of Ellis Middle School in Austin, Minnesota. And we're currently in a hybrid model. So we're 850 students, but with COVID, half of us are in session 2 days a week, the other half, the other 2 days a week, and then Wednesday's a true asynchronous distance learning day. So that's really who I am, besides the mom of 2 very active teenagers. Yeah, well, and we've been really fortunate. We're more outstate Minnesota, so we've been in hybrid for the whole school year this year, which is pretty fantastic. We did have a spell come Thanksgiving through Christmas where we were fully distance learning, but for the most part, we've been hybrid all year, but we do have a couple sections of elected distance learners. So students who didn't want to come back into the building, we do offer full distance learning, but for the most part, we've been rolling in a really unique year and a very unique schedule for the whole school year.
Ms. Cabeen is in the middle of a hectic semester, but she's already thinking about how she can be intentional in her reopening process next year as her elected distance learners come back into the building.
We are excited to welcome kids back, but I do think even for all educators and administrators, really rethink how you're reopening school. Please don't do your massive open house with thousands of people and close quarters, and really consider the mind of a middle schooler, the mind of an elementary, and families that maybe have been elected distance learning and offer smaller opportunities to get exposed to the building. I really hope we continue some of these virtual conferencing opportunities for parents, because we've done virtual student-led conferences this year. And I think about, especially in the winter, we have a lot of kids in hockey, swimming, football, and it's late at night in Minnesota. I mean, like, it gets dark at 2 and it snows from September to April. So to be able to conference at home and not have to travel back out to the school, I mean, just things like that, I think will really help, regardless of what setting we're in, just not forgetting what we've gone through and making some improvements to really embrace everybody back in.
This part of the conversation with Ms. Cabeen really sparked my interest. A large back-to-school open house in a gymnasium seems inconsiderate. It can be frowned upon as some families still remain cautious. Ms. Cabeen is not only thoughtful about how to reopen school, but also how to build stamina for her students who have not been in school for 5 days a week for an entire year. Many students across the country are like Ms. Cabeen's students, which means we can't just jump back into a 5-day schedule without conditioning the students to get back to a healthy cadence for learning.
We're transitioning back to something, but it's not the same as what it was before. And so we have to make sure that next year is just unique and special to next year, but know that we're going to move things differently after year 2 back, after year 3 back. So one of our biggest transitions we're doing is, we were a 7-period middle school. This year we moved into a hybrid block. Next year we're moving into a block. And really, the focus of doing it, it's more of an AB block. Less classes for kids to have to navigate, especially for those that were in our elementary school that have never been in the middle school. Longer time to get deeper into work, and hopefully less homework, really focusing on deeper in learning within the classroom. And then our Wednesdays are actually going to be skinnies all the way through. So you're going to get to see all your classes on Wednesdays, but we're also noticing, like, they're going to be tired. We're going to have some really tired kids who have only been in school for 2 days a week for over a year. And so making Wednesdays kind of that middle of the week, change it up a little bit, shake it up a little bit. So then Thursday, Friday, we can get back into some solid learning on our B days. So we're doing like A days on Monday, Tuesday, B days on Thursday, Friday, and Wednesday is just a enrichment, extension, flex, fun, get back into building relationships with kids and helping them transition to this new normal we're going to be walking into.
Ellis Middle School has 7 class periods this year and will be transitioning into 8 next year. Even though there will be an additional class, it should feel less hectic as kids will only go to all 8 classes on Wednesday for an enrichment period she calls a skinny.
So we're just trying to slowly, gradually build those muscles, but you get 2 days together, like 2 days of language arts, then that kind of enrichment extension day, and then 2 days of math. And so we're just trying to build community, relationship, those like fundamental skills before we get into the learning. We noticed that a lot. Our first quarter grades weren't as great as our second and third because kids were just anxious and nervous and scared and didn't know how to build routine and build trust. And we're seeing those skills, the resiliency building back in our students. And so we want to start from where we're at and just grow.
What Ms. Cabeen also noticed when implementing an enrichment day is that it's beneficial for her teachers. Teachers at Ellis Middle School will be transitioning back into a full classroom next year, where this year they may have 10 to 12 students.
One of the nice things with the block schedule now is I see teachers walking during their 90 minutes off. They found partners, they're getting their own mental and physical health throughout the day. And then as we start to transition for teachers to go from a class of 10 to a class back of 30, we're going to be doing some professional development, bringing in some middle school kind of experts in helping us. How do we do motivation and engagement and structure in a 90-minute block when it's a full class again too? So those are things we kind of like doing it in April and May because we can pilot those strategies in our hybrid, see what works, and then scale it in the fall. Our hope is we're back in person 5 days a week. And so practicing it now, scaling it in the fall could really provide some opportunities to have a solid foundation.
Practicing now to scale into the fall is where we all need to be as we think about the next school year. There's so many new habits we made while being remote and many habits we have when we were in the building 5 days a week that we have to rebuild. Practicing ideas like block scheduling now allows us to get feedback to see how the community will respond to the different models.
So we did the listening sessions with all of our departments, and so I just was vulnerable and transparent and saying, I'm not sure what's going to be the best for our kids, but I know less classes to navigate, longer time to build relationships, and as much as possible, if I can keep class sizes manageable, it's going to be helpful for all. So moving to this block was really an open door for that. The piece as a leader was I walked in thinking this is what we're going to do. I'm presenting something that's completely different. So being open to hearing the feedback from your stakeholders and then changing. So when you relay the schedule this week, everybody can see a piece of, oh, I suggested this or I suggested this. So then we have the community build-in or buy-in for our culture to say, okay, I see myself in the schedule. I believe in it. I'm ready to move it forward. But we've been meeting with other middle schools in the state and sharing some of this information because we know we're not the only ones that could probably benefit from kind of changing up our schedule for next year.
Ms. Cabeen is introducing the block schedule to her teachers this week, so I'm excited to follow up and get her update on how her team responded. Her ability to include everyone and give people a chance to see themselves in the schedule shows her leadership. I'm sure she's going to get great feedback and support for the block schedule next year. I can't imagine having to create a schedule that appeases everyone. I barely can keep up with this schedule to provide this episode every week. However, we will continue to do our best. Thank you for watching This Week in Education. If you like this episode, please subscribe. We break down innovation trends and topics every week to get the best information in this ever-changing moment.